Good evening and welcome to News Review. On the 60th anniversary of the Queen's last visit to Gibraltar, the Chief Minister urged Her Majesty to listen to the warmth of the Gibraltarian invitation to repeat that visit. Speaking during his National Day speech, Fabian Picardo said Gibraltar had been building a prosperous nation for 6 decades, whilst Spain had been throwing tantrums during that time. It was an emotional farewell from Dennis Matthews, who announced he would be stepping down as SDGG chairman, although he would not reveal who had been primed to succeed him. And Sir Graham Watson, newly awarded the Freedom of the City, said he and other supporters would not sleep until Gibraltar's rights were assured.
Her Majesty can be very proud of the way in which Gibraltarians have built their nation, despite struggling against adversity. That was the way the Chief Minister Fabian Picardo characterised the sentiment on National Day, 60 years after Queen Elizabeth visited the Rock during her tour of the Commonwealth. And this year, said Mr. Picardo, was an important one to celebrate all those who had contributed to the national identity over the years, those who had suffered evacuation during the World War years, and those who could not be with us to celebrate on this day. The Chief Minister said Gibraltar was strengthening itself as a nation, with a new national bank and a new university in the pipeline, and with its traditional strong message before the UN. A message built on the principle that a people must be free to determine their own political future.
As proudly British Gibraltarians that we are, I want you to make clear to Her Majesty the warmth of our invitation for her to come back to Gibraltar. She doesn't need an invitation to come back to her rock. But do you want to see the Queen back in Gibraltar?
Dennis Matthews, chairman of the Self-Determination for Gibraltar group, addressed the National Day rally for the last time, revealing to GBC he would be standing down in 2 weeks. He said despite Spain's best efforts, the Rock had made some political advancements, namely the Eurovote, UEFA membership and recognition by the EU that the reclamation and artificial reef were not only legal but conducted in British waters.
We gather here in our national colours of red and white to proclaim that Gibraltar is our home and to demonstrate that the Spanish government's campaign against us is only succeeding in making us stronger and more determined to make it clear that our rock will never be Spanish.
The freedom of the city of Gibraltar and the Gibraltar Medallion of Honour is hereby conferred upon Sir Graham Watson.
The freedom of the city was awarded to him by the mayor, Adolfo Canepa, in recognition of his staunch defence of the Rock during his time as an MEP. He said Gibraltar's supporters would not sleep until the rights of the people were assured.
It has been an honour to serve the people of Gibraltar for 10 years in the European Parliament. I have relished the challenge of taking up your issues, and I thank you for your recognition of my work.
13 parliamentarians, all members of the all-party Gibraltar group, and 3 MEPs were in Gibraltar for the celebrations, with a representative of each party sharing some brief words with the people before making way for the main speakers. The traditional release of the 30,000 red and white balloons and their effect on the environment was a talking point in the build-up to the day, with the SDGG ultimately taking the step to reduce the amount released by half. The Chief Minister revealed to GBC that discussions were already underway to mitigate the eco-impact further next year, and possibly even find a symbolic replacement for the balloons.
We're going to ensure that next year we see whether it is possible to release different types of balloons that don't create the environmental problem. Even if they are more expensive, it may be worth spending more money. We are trying to determine that and trying to test the type of balloon that we are being proposed. We should release it, whether it does biodegrade in the time available. And I think there will also be an opportunity for some surprises next year in lieu or in addition to a release of balloons.
The politicians and special guests were then invited to a reception at Grand Battery, hosted by the SDGG.
Almost £3 million worth of cannabis resin was seized by the Gibraltar Defence Police in a joint operation with the Royal Gibraltar Police. Officers of the GDP intercepted an open motorboat off Camp Bay based on information received by the RGP. Around 570 kilos of cannabis resin was found on board the boat, which was searched by GDP and specialist RGP officers. 2 men were arrested and have been subsequently pleaded guilty to unlawful possession, intent to supply and importation of the drugs. 20-year-old Romanian Constantin Radu Bascaru and 34-year-old Spaniard Oscar Morales Pinheiro, they'll be sentenced in the Supreme Court on the 13th of October. Works on the Spanish side of the frontier this week brought most of Gibraltar's roads to gridlock. The works, which are scheduled to go on for 7 months, are designed to improve frontier flow following recommendations by the EU Commission. However, in the first 24 hours since their introduction, they had the complete opposite effect, with traffic moving very slowly on Gibraltar's main roads. The Royal Gibraltar Police deployed additional resources to the frontier and set up a diversion onto the site of the former airport in order to hold some of the traffic. The RGP urged people to avoid driving in the area of the frontier unless absolutely necessary. Albert Mena has been appointed Financial Secretary. He takes over on the basis of a 3-year secondment from Dilip Dayaram, who retires after extending his services. Mr. Mena is a senior partner at Hassan's and is both a chartered accountant and a lawyer with specialist knowledge in taxation. In addition to the role, the government has asked Mr. Mena to enhance training and succession planning during the transitional period of secondment. The Chief Minister praised the outgoing Financial Secretary, describing him as an exemplary public servant to Gibraltar. On Albert Mena, the Chief Minister said he had no doubt that he will be an asset for Gibraltar plc. A local man and a local juvenile appeared before the Magistrates' Court this week, facing charges of attempted robbery and possession of an offensive weapon.
A local man and a local juvenile were arrested together with a Spanish national by the Royal Gibraltar Police in relation to a suspected attempted robbery and wounding in a shop in town yesterday evening. An RGP spokesperson said there had been a minor injury and an area was temporarily cordoned off towards the south end of Main Street, where the shop Danny's is situated. Lee Cruz Parry of 161 Tank Ramp is represented by Daniel Ben Nunez and has been charged with attempted robbery. The juvenile, who is 14 years old, is represented by Patrick Anessa and is also facing charges of attempted robbery and also for possession of an offensive weapon. The defendants have been remanded in custody until the 16th of October, when the two will appear before the Supreme Court. A Spanish national is also in police custody, but hasn't been charged as of yet.
A local man was this week charged with indecently assaulting a child under the age of 13 and a child under the age of 16 years old. Liam Traverso is represented by Owen Smith and has been charged with 5 counts of assault. The incidents in question date back to 2011 and 2012. The 24-year-old pleaded not guilty to all charges, and a 3-week trial has been set for the 1st of June next year. Meanwhile, also in the courts, a juvenile pleaded guilty to possession of a sword and a BB gun in the Supreme Court. The 17-year-old has been charged with wounding and causing grievous bodily harm. The defendant pleaded not guilty to these counts, but guilty for possession of a prohibited weapon and possession of a blade exceeding 3 inches in length. The matter has been adjourned until the 16th of October and the defendant has been granted bail. The Gibraltar branch of Union Bancaire Privée, a Swiss private bank, is to close and refer its business to Lombard Odier. The bank's 9 employees will have their contracts terminated. However, UBP states that, mindful of its social responsibilities, it's already started a consultation process with its employees and has also put together a comprehensive package of measures for them.
Last May, UBP bought out the private banking business, which was part of the Lloyds Group portfolio. The Gibraltar branch was included in that deal, but GBC understands that a review process was set in motion, which put a question mark over the future of that branch. A spokesman has now confirmed that the review process has been concluded, and that it's become clear that the Gibraltar volume is insufficient to maintain a branch here. The spokesman went on to say that in order to ensure continuity of service to clients, UBP has entered into a referral agreement with Lombard Odier. UBP becomes the third bank to announce it's leaving Gibraltar in 2014, after Barclays and Norwich and Peterborough. Early this year, NatWest also announced redundancies.
And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.